Alrighty, this video would be a brief overview on the dialogue system. So, if I walk up to a character and hit E to interact, character says howdy, salty weather we're having today. And if I talk to him again, he has a different set of dialogue. He's just complaining about having to get something for Aeon. And if I go talk to Aeon, he's the king and he is hungry. Chloe has a burger, and here I'm trying to introduce some sort of fetch quest system, so he's asking me to fetch the burger, see what I can do. If I talk to him again, and then he would just always say this line until he gets the item. If I talk back to Chloe, he's like, alright, you just what I've been looking for, here, deliver this burger to the king. I'm like, alright. If I talk to him again, he just keep on until I deliver that quest item. King is happy that he has his burger now. And then his end dialogue loop is always thanking me at this point. And if I go back to Chloe, he thanks me. And then, so my goal was to have something simple, a place to edit the dialogue easy enough where I don't have to keep updating different nodes and trees within Unreal. So I had an idea to have all the dialogue stuff tied to an Excel sheet, or in this case Google Sheets. So the whole conversation that I just played out is listed here in this nice list. So I had an idea, so I'm separating each dialogue clump with this title kind of tag. Here's the main the character who's talking, and even within this list I could set different variables, so as soon as Aeon is done talking, behind the scenes I will set Chloe burger. So if I go talk to Chloe down here, it'll look for Chloe burger, which is here, and then it'll start playing these lines. And then if I get up to Chloe deliver, next time I talk to Chloe, it'll search for Chloe.deliver, which is here. And then Chloe will just keep repeating this until I deliver that burger. Again, all this is just a linear way of writing things. Within Unreal, I'm just looking for specific tags and jumping to that clump of dialogue. And I believe I have it tied to this, my dialogue manager. So pop that open. It's quite a bit, but essentially it comes down to a bunch of like string parsing and such. What's my begin play? Alright, so when I first start the game, I have a bunch of mini functions to. So in my dialogue, I have curly brackets player, and this function does a search for player and replaces it with player name. So going back to the example, so this is my main character. His name is just player right now. I have it somewhere on my tree, but if I'm talking, yeah, so if I'm talking on top of my name is Cisco, so the main bubble says Cisco. So that's pretty much what, yeah, so this is what this is doing. It's doing a search for the word player and replacing it with Cisco, which is over here. So as a player, when I start a game, I could enter my own name, and whatever name I entered would be reflected back in here. Boom, 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 boom. So it takes the dialogue stuff I make, it breaks it into, looks like I break down my uh, breaks down my data stuff. So based on all of this here, it just takes all that data, replaces player with my name, and it dumps it all into this array. So now that Unreal has a reference to all of this data, I could continue parsing that information. So each of these title, it's a dialogue clump. So whenever Unreal sees the curly bracket title, I'm dumping it in to this array over here. So this is how I'm doing checks for if a player visited the player or not. So right now everything is set to false since I haven't talked to that player yet. And then I have more checks for so take one of these example says Chloe says this, the player says what's up, and then back and forth. There's a back and forth conversation happening here, and that's being searched and split up in, I believe, here or here. Yeah, so in this case, whenever I see the player Cajun, I'm getting all of that Cajun's dialogue and storing it into a dialogue. So here's Cajun over here. Each character has an input for name. So the dialogue tree, if the dialogue starts with that player's name, it'll find that player, and that's what I'm using to align the word bubble on top. So this is Aeon, this character is Chloe, and I'm the player. So if you look at the word bubbles on top of my head, it says Cajun in the list, so the word bubble will be above Cajun. And then when I talk, well, the bubble isn't on me, but for Chloe now. So the bubble is over Chloe. When I'm talking, the bubble is over my head, and it goes back and forth. So I'm looking for the name, and then depending on the name, that's where I would align the bubbles. And there's a bunch of more functions within functions and such. This is the player formatting. This is a function to reset all of my strings. I guess I could put this side by side. You could kind of see Alright, let's do that-ish. So you could see the execution pins being triggered when I first talk to the character. So all the data I sorted earlier is just pulling the data in right now. You can kind of barely see it. It goes between Chloe and Cisco back and forth. It takes those all those strings. Um, so I have 5 elements in this array, and then this down here it counts whenever I hit um, E for the next line. It counts, and if I reach 5, that's where I would end it and loop back to the beginning of the dialog tree. So each bubble have a nameplate on the top, and this is what this thing is doing right here. It's seeing the name, whoever's talking, it'll see that colon, call everything afterward, and just take the name. That name is passed to the nameplate. Whenever the bubble is on top of player, it'll look at that nameplate and update whoever's talking on the top. So this is the actual raw dialogue itself, going back and forth. I've already called the speaker's name in the beginning, so whatever's left, that's being passed to the dialogue array now. And this was an attempt for... So each player has an expression on it, so depending on what's called for, I could change the expression. Since I have nothing listed in the dialogue yet, but pretty much this clump here is looking for a certain action, and if it finds an action, it'll play or change, update the face to react whatever action you tell it to. Show some conversation. So here's my little check going back to this. What is it? 5, 6. A total of 6 different array elements, and then you could see whenever I go to the next line, it updates to the next line until it reaches the last item, and then it loops back. So that's how you could continue with the same conversation until you hit the trigger to jump to the next dialogue tree. So going back with getting that nameplate and the dialogue stuff, the widget here, which is the word bubble, it takes that data and is casting it to... It creates my word bubble and updates the word bubble with my messages. And whenever I get a new line, it's updating my word bubble. So don't need that. Boop. So here's my word bubble. Whenever I talk, this is the base of it. Here's the nameplate, and then here's the main dialogue body. And going back to nameplate, it gets that nameplate and updates that word bubble. Same thing with the dialogue. And then this plays a fading in and out animation of the word bubble. So once I'm done talking, it fades away. And if I re-talk, it slightly fades in. And when you're done with the paragraph, fades out. So that's one of the neat things that I was able to do with Unreal's Blueprint system, and hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.